Hi, I'm Margaret Lewin and welcome to Margaret Lewin Quilting. Today we are going to be making the border for our friendship chain. Now this is a quilt that we made as a group. There were just about 100 of us. So every month I would send out grays and background colors, and every month people would put together their own 4 patches, and I'll show you some of them, and they would send them back to me and I would exchange them. And we have a gorgeous array. Here's some. Grab a couple more so that you can see them. They just ended up being so pretty. Look at these. Aren't they gorgeous? I loved it. Every single month we'd get these wonderful bags filled with different fabrics and different colors, and it was really quite wonderful. So there's all or some of the different 4 patches that I received because I did it along with everybody else. And now that we've got this part all done, we're going to work on our borders. So first thing we're going to do is get our strip set made, and then we're going to cut them and make them into our borders. So our first strip set is of a neutral background and a dark gray. Our second strip set is from a dark gray and then a color from your stash. So what you're going to do is cut your strips. You're going to sew a dark gray to a neutral, a dark gray to a color. I would suggest making a whole bunch of these with different colors. I think that'll make the border really pop with all this scrappiness, as you can see here, of the border. Either that, or if you want to, you can do it all in one color. I think that's still going to make a really pretty border. So once you've done that, then it's time to start cutting. Both of these are put into 1.5 inch strips or subcuts, however you'd like to describe it. So I'm going to take my piece of fabric and I'm going to line it up on my cutting table. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that my one end is square. And to do that, I'll pick up my ruler. Now I'm using my Creative Grids 8.5 by 24.5 inch. And I'm going to slide it across the fabric. I'll use my mat to line it up. And I'm just going to take a little bit off of one end so that I can make sure I'm nice and square. Because these are 1.5 inch cuts, I'm going to cut this up into 1.5 inch strips. And what I'm going to do is start with 6 inches. Create my piles and then cut again. What I like to do is I like to cut it into batches like this. So I'm only working with 6 inches at a time, because then if I get off straight of grain, I can make another cut, correct it, and move on to the next one. So I'm going to start out at 6 inches. You can see I've got my 6 inch here. I'm going to use this seam right here to line up on my ruler also, and I'm just going to make my first cut. I'm not going to move anything. I'm going to leave everything right there. I'm just going to slide my fabric 1.5 inches, or slide my ruler, 1.5 inches to the left. Again, using the lines on my ruler to keep myself straight, I'm going to make another cut. I'm going to keep doing that until I have cut up my 6 inch segment of fabric. Got one more cut to make. And then once I've done that, I'm going to slide my ruler all of the way off, and then I can just pick up my 4 pieces just like this. I could set these aside, and if I'm still nice and straight, I'll bring my ruler, pick it up, set it back down on there again, and continue cutting. If I find that I have worked my way off a little bit, I would square this up again. But now we've got 4 nice pieces to work with. So I'm going to set these right here for us, and I'm going to move this aside. The next thing we need to do is cut up our second strip set. I'm going to do that I'm going to do the exact same thing that I just did here. I'm going to line this up. I'm going to clean up my end so that I am dealing with a nice straight piece of fabric. I'm going to trim, moving my ruler off, not moving my fabric. Now I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm still working with 6-inch pieces, and I am still using my ruler to keep me nice and straight on my fabric. So I can see where I'm at. I'm going to slide this over. I'm going to move over 1.5 inches. Line it all up again and cut. 1.5 inches. Lining it all up and cut. One more to go. Lining it up and make a cut. I'm going to set this piece aside, and this is what I now have for my border. Now I'm going to show you how to lay it out. The layout is really nice and simple. I need another color from over here. And this is all you're going to do is just make these. I would suggest to sew these together in groups of 2, then in groups of 4, then in groups of 8, so that you're dealing with smaller increments. It just makes it a little bit easier to handle. When you go to press these, it's really up to you how you press them. You can press all of the seams to the color, or you can press all of the seams open, or you can press them all to the gray. It's really up to you on how you do it. So that is how you're going to be making your border for your friendship chain. What I do suggest is that if you're going to make multiple color borders, I would do a bunch of these, sew them in groups of 2, then mix them up, sew them into groups of 4, mix them up, sew them into groups of 8, whatever it takes, just so that you get that real scrappy appearance. I also think it would be gorgeous to just use 2 colors on here, or even 4 colors, and then you could make it go into a real pattern of sorts. So this is our friendship chain quilt. If you would like the pattern, it is available on my website. My website is www.missmarkersquilts.com. I'd like to thank you so much for joining me today. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you again really soon. Thanks, everybody. Bye.